end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday again. Like I said, it seems like it was just Wednesday. Holy crap. Seems like just a week ago, or no, it seems like just a week ago. It was a week ago.
Yeah, so just a week ago. It was a week ago.
Seems like just a week ago. No, I was going to say it seems like only yesterday I was like, putting on that new intro and seeing that little baby hand, which cracks me up every single time, the little baby hand at the beginning. But yeah, hi, it's Wednesday. Everybody seems very excited about this topic, and I can't remember, I think it was one of you guys, like, recommended it, and I'm really glad you did, because I didn't know jack shit about this case. Like, I'd heard the name, like, vaguely, but I didn't really know anything about it, and when I started looking into it, I was like, holy crap, this is, like, batshit. I can't believe I don't know about this, and I can't believe it's not kind of more widely known, because this is a crazy fucking story.
I think I remember something about this, but I'll probably remember details as they come up.
Yeah, Zach said I never heard of this one, but cool. Yeah, this is it's worth it. It's a crazy story. Danny Rolling said Mr. Ballin's YouTube channel did a video about this case. Yeah, I watched it. I watched his one. Simon Whistler did one. And then this girl, what the fuck was the name of her channel? I can't remember. I listened to it on the way home from work in the car. But I watched like a bunch of. There's not a huge number of them, but. Because, like I said, it seems like this one's not really all that well known in spite of how crazy it is. Because it's like, not only does this involve, like, a serial killer, but it's also, like, a group, it's like a cult, like a sex cult. And there's, like, Aztec shit going on in it. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's already starting to sound familiar. But I think there's more than one that was kind of like this.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
There was a dude that had one, too, for a while. I think they were killing people for certain cartel members and sacrificing them to get the blood. I don't remember exactly what.
Now, see, this one didn't have anything to do with cartels or anything like that, because this actually took place in the 60s.
Okay, so it's probably not this one that I've been.
And also, it's kind of one of the very rare cases, I mean, infinitesimally rare, of a female I guess you could technically call her a serial killer. She was really only convicted of 2 murders, but that's only because they couldn't get anybody to testify against her. They think she may have murdered as many as 15. They're thinking. It's usually, I usually see like between 8 and 15, something like that. But she seemed, I mean, the way that it happened is actually really fascinating too, because we can kind of get into the psychology of that. But it's one of the very rare cases of a female killer who seemed sexually motivated, which hardly ever happens. I don't know if I'm guessing there had to be a sexual component to it. I think it was probably like a power trip as well, but I mean the shit that she did and that she got other people to do, yeah, I'm imagining there was probably like a large sexual component to it. So again, that's very, very unusual, and I think that's why a lot of people are kind of fascinated by this case.
Yeah, that's probably where I've heard stories of these Mexican all female cartel type gangs. I think they were sassas. I think that's really how they were making the money. And that was like one of their little blood rituals. After they'd kill these dudes, they would have sex with the dead bodies. The girls would. I don't know exactly how that happens. Maybe they just ride his face. I don't fucking know. But I remember hearing something about that. And that's modern. Maybe they got some of that shit from these old cases.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe this
might
got
be like
idea
getting
from.
the ideas from them. Yeah.
Xanada said, I'm familiar with this case. Mexico has some crazy true crime stories. Yes,
yeah.
And this is one of them.
Yeah.
Curly says, to be called a serial killer is to have over 5 victims. I thought it was 3.
It's 3 last I heard by the FBI.
I think the FBI categorizes as 3. Like I said, she only got convicted of 2, but they're pretty sure that she did at least 8 and possibly as many as 15. And so I feel pretty confident calling her a serial killer. I mean, considering like what they know about her and like what she fucking did. But let's see. Camp Guy said, does anyone remember the name of the case where a mother and teen daughter were abducted at a Boca Raton high-end shopping mall parking garage and driven around with blacked out swim masks? Ooh, I kind of do know what you're talking about. I'll look that up though, because that sounds like hauntingly familiar.
What happened to them? They just drove them around with the swim masks?
I don't know.
There gotta be more to it than that.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you said I saw it on Unsolved Mysteries. Okay, so I'm gonna put Boca Raton swim masks. That'll clip my memory in. But yeah, so yeah, thought that would happen in Florida. Yeah, Boca Raton's in Florida. So yeah, that's where it happened. And I kind of feel like that I probably should know about that one because I should know more about Florida crimes, but you know what I mean. Yeah, Crowley said a sequence kill is 3. Yeah, this one happened. I don't know. I guess you could call her a serial killer, but it wasn't all just in one big. It was kind of like just one extended period. It was like a 6-week period. You know what I mean? So it was almost kind of like I don't know, a spree killing, I want to say?
Spree killing. Yeah.
I want to say, but I don't know. It doesn't really kind of fit either category. Zach says there was a Mexican serial killer case from last year that got some attention. Andres Mendoza. It's super fucked up. Yeah, I think I've heard that name too. I need to look that up also. Because I'm always looking for more stuff to like put in the polls, you know.
Yeah, we need to do some Mexican cases.
Yeah, because I feel like we don't really do enough.
There's a lot of good stories from down there.
Well, yeah, and we have some listeners who are in Mexico and could probably help me out. And you know, I know some of you guys are here tonight, and I'm sure I'm going to pronounce some of this shit wrong, so I tried it. Okay, so the Aztec goddess, I'm not going to say it yet, but the Aztec goddess that factors into this story, I've looked up this video because I've heard it pronounced like a couple of different ways, and so I looked it up, and I found this video that said how to pronounce it with real-world examples, and there were like 5 real-world examples, and every single motherfucker on there pronounced it differently. And I was like, well, that's super helpful. Thank you very much for that. So I'm not entirely sure like how to pronounce it, but I'll try to get it as close as possible. Murder Hornet said, have y'all done a show on the South American lead masks deaths? I thought we did. Like the lead masks case, we might not have done a whole show about it, but I think we folded it in with another one, like it was a double feature. I think. I remember putting it in the polls, and talking about or something, but it's like, I don't remember if we ever actually ended up doing it or not. But it would have been under lead, but I'm pretty sure we did it. If we did do it, we did it like with another topic. You know what I mean? Do you do stuff on dictators? We do stuff on pretty much anything that's interesting. True crime stuff, paranormal stuff, weird historical stuff, whatever. Like, interesting people, fucked up. We did a show about, I'm trying to think of, like, some of the more unusual ones we did, but I'm kind of drawing a blank. Camp Guy said, talking about the swim masks thing, they never caught the guy. He killed one set of mother and kid and let one set go. Yeah. Danny Rowling said, the villagers of this town had shit for brains. They did, but I mean, in their defense, they lived out in the middle of nowhere. They weren't educated. They were really poor, and they probably believed a lot of, dumb mythological bullshit like a lot of people did back then.
Superstition.
Yeah, especially in that. Always ends up biting you in the ass, I feel like. Always ends up biting you in the ass. Don't believe in shit like that. Just a pro tip. Because shit like this will happen. Because it's like, it wasn't just... Because the thing about Magdalena Solís is that it wasn't just her. She, like, was able to persuade all of these people to do this really fucked up shit. Really fucked up shit. Zach said, did you ever talk about Pedro Lopez? I don't think so. Now I'm having to write all this stuff down. You guys did Rasputin. Yeah, we did do Rasputin. That's right. And who was I trying to think of that we did the other day? John Wilkes Booth. We did a show about John Wilkes Booth. Yeah, we did do Rasputin, didn't we? It was a while.
Yeah,
it was a while back, but yeah, I don't remember if we ever did like the assassination, like the Anastasia or like the Romanovs or anything like that. Because I know that's kind of like related. I thought we did too, but it was like a long time ago.
Or it may have been inside the Rasputin.
That's what, yeah, because that's kind of like related to that. So we might have talked about it in there.
They all were killed. None of them survived.
Well, they didn't find that out till a lot later though. But that was like that was a big mystery for a long time. But until they finally like found the other bodies and did all the DNA and everything, they're like, yep, that woman that said she was Anastasia was not
all bullshit.
It was all bullshit the whole time.
Fantasy.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? She's trying to pull one over. That's can't blame some people for trying to like fucking grift, I guess. But yeah, so Hugo's here, says hello, guys. Fast food killer. Murder Hornet said serial killer Paul Reed in Nashville. I was in the same jail as him in the 90s. AKA the fast food killer.
I don't know that one.
I don't think I know that one either. Isn't it scary? Like, and I think I've said this a bunch of times because, like, when I was working on my Faceless Villain books, and I was just kind of like, you eventually have to come up with some kind of, like, filter to, like, filter stuff out, because otherwise you'd be writing about crimes, like, for the rest of your life, because you find ones and then there's, like, then you go down this rabbit hole and there's billions of, like, other ones.
Yeah, homicides are common.
There's, like, well, and even, like, not even just regular ass homicides. Yeah. I'm just talking about, like, fucked up ones, like serial killers and stuff like that. There's, like, you know, everybody knows, like, the kind of big ticket serial killers, but then there's, like, all these obscure ones that did really messed up shit too, and it's like hardly anybody ever thinks about them, and I don't really know. I don't really know what makes one famous and not another one. You know what I mean?
The media has a lot to do with it.
I guess, but it's just because we've done some shows on some serial killers that aren't as well known as some of the other ones, and I'm just like, I don't understand why this isn't better known than, like, Ted Bundy or something like that, because some of these people did, like, shit just as bad, you know? So, I don't know.
Timing.
Yeah.
Timing in the media, whether or not it catches on.
Yeah, weird. Danny Rowling said, didn't some kid alert the Mexican authorities about killings taking place in a cave in this case? Yes. That kid is a hero, and we'll talk about what happened to him, though, because, spoiler alert, wasn't good.
Is there anything, any shout-outs or anything we got to do to start the show?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would like to come up on?
No.
Say anything about your adventures at the biker thing, or anything like
went
that?
To downtown Sanford,
Tuesday night is biker night.
Yeah.
Like all of downtown
Sanford.
Sanford.
It's all motorcycles. I put some stuff on Instagram. Took a few videos. Probably about 70 or 80 bikes showed up. It's pretty good. We'll see. It happens on Thursday too.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it's not.
What, are you going to go tomorrow night too?
I don't know. Probably not.
I mean, I don't think we're not streaming tomorrow night, so you can if you want. But
I might just swing by. It's not an official bike night, but they're down there anyway.
So every night is bike night.
Every night is bike night. They got a couple nights they focus on, you know.
Yeah, because I was pretty sure Tuesday.
Yeah,
Tuesday night was kind of like the big night that, because I know Mannequins was doing a
whole bunch
promotion.
Of them rode in. They were only there till about 9, and then they leave because they go to another bar. So they almost go on a tour.
It's a bar tour.
Yeah, like
Tuesday night bar tour.
They don't drink much.
Well, they probably have to get up and work in the morning too, and you got to ride a motorcycle, which I'm imagining is even worse than having to drive a car.
Depends on how long you've been doing it.
I guess. Also, you got a new necklace, which is cool.
Oh yeah. It's got a damn Viking wolf on it and a bunch of runes. I don't know what the fuck it says.
If somebody that can read runes told you what it said, what if it says something really fucked up?
Got some little dick energy.
Yeah, what if that's what it said? Holy shit, wouldn't that be funny? Oh my god.
Hilarious shit. Man.
If I could write like Viking runes or Egyptian hieroglyphs or something like that, I would be making so much fucking jewelry like that. And I would make it like super metal and badass, but then it would say stuff like that, like I am a giant pussy.
I recognize, I think, a name in there. I think it said Fafnir or something like that. I think it was one of fucking one of damn Odin's,
or one of those.
One of Odin's wolves, because they had names and shit.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was. Mjolnir was the name of the damn hammer. Emu and Enur. I don't remember. I can't really pronounce, but that was the names of his ravens.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I think the wolves had names too. I don't remember what they were though. I think it started with an F. I think I recognized the name in there, but I forgot what it was. Forgot what it said.
Murder Hornet talking about the serial killer Paul Reed. He said he was a huge mofo. His neck was the size of my thigh.
Who was this?
Paul Reed, the serial killer. Look up images of Paul Reed and look at his neck. Big neck, small head. Danny Rowling then says that the whole part of the kid alerting the authorities of the cave killings, in this particular case that we're going to be talking about, reminds me of Dracula Untold and the cave vampire, kind of. Okay. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe that's kind of where they got the idea from this, because most of this took place in a cave, and like I said, this is a crazy fucking story. And I'm surprised it's like not better known. I didn't really even know about it, but one of you guys, I don't remember who it was, but one of you guys like recommended it, and it finally won in the thing, and I was like, Yeah, this is nuts. I don't know why more people don't know about this. So yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. Okay, so we have to start, before we start with Magdalena Solís, we'll come back to her in a moment. Because there was a whole framework or a whole thing leading up to this. So I kind of feel like this is another one of those cases. We talk about this a lot when we talk about serial killer couples, you know, because we've done several shows about that. And I'm always kind of curious as to whether, had the woman been left to her own devices and not met the dude, would she have killed people anyway? Probably not, most of the time. This woman, the situation where it took place was so specific, I don't think she would have turned out the way she turned out had the situation not gone this way, because circumstances in this case went like in exactly the wrong way to turn her into a monster, pretty much. And I think if those circumstances had not been present, she would have, I'm not saying she would have been a great human being, I'm just saying that she probably wouldn't have done anything this monstrous or this horrific. You know what I'm saying? So it was all a bunch of things that ended up in a particular way. I don't think anybody meant for it to end up this way, but it did. So before we get to her, we have to talk about these two dudes named the Hernández brothers. And their names were Santos and Cayetano. Now these two schmucks were basically, they made their living just kind of like wandering around from town to town in Mexico and scamming people. They were good at kind of like sleight of hand, like simple magic tricks, shit like that. So they would go around to various towns and, you know, give people a line and shit like that and just try to scam money out of them. So then that's basically how they made their living. So I'm not entirely sure how they found out about this one town where they ended up going to, where all of this stuff took place, which is called Yerba Buena in Mexico. But this town, it was a tiny, tiny little town. I have seen, it was basically, I think that it was like 20 families, maybe. So I think I've seen between 50 and 70 people. So it was a village, essentially. And I heard that that might have been like the Mexican government or the government of that particular state of Mexico, like sent all these families out there to kind of like farm the land. Because I guess the land was pretty good. The land was kind of fertile. But it was like a really, really small town, and it was just all of these people that lived there. They all knew each other. They were all kind of related and stuff like that. And they just went there and farmed the land, you know, growing beans and corn. And, you know, as usual, this was a very isolated village. It was kind of like at the foot of some mountains. The people there were, you know, hardworking, but were not very educated. Many of them were illiterate. The land there was pretty fertile, and they did grow stuff and were able to like sell it at market and stuff like that. But still, it wasn't like a huge amount of money. So a lot of them were kind of like scrabbling for money. So somehow,
subsistence farming.
Yeah, pretty much is what it was. So somehow, right around 1962, like the end of 1962, the Hernández brothers heard about this town. And I guess I'm not really sure entirely like what their end game was. I think that maybe they were kind of like, well, we're not making a shit ton of money just going from podunk town to podunk town, just like, you know, scamming a couple like old ladies out of their money or whatever. And maybe they thought it would be a good idea to go to this one town and see if they could kind of like take it over. But the weird thing about it is that I was like, well, this town, Yerba Buena, doesn't really seem like the best place to go to do that. Because like I said, everybody there was pretty poor. It was very small. It was only like max 70 people. That was like as many people went there. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know exactly like what appealed to them in particular about this town. But they decided that they were going to show up there and pull one of their scams. I don't know if they had done this scam previously. I'm guessing not. But maybe this was kind of like I said, maybe they were kind of going off on a power trip kind of thing. So what they did was they go to this place and they basically roll up into the center of town, you know, and they're strangers. So everybody comes out and is like, who the fuck are these guys? You know, like looking at them. These two guys basically say, we're prophets of these powerful Incan gods, which they're a little geographically challenged there because obviously the Incans, that was Peru, and we're in Mexico. Should have been Aztec. They got it right later on, but when they first came, they basically like were emissaries of these powerful Incan gods, and we're here to give all of you villagers a message that you pretty much have to do everything we say because, you know, the gods are speaking through us and everything. And if you do that, then you will be rewarded. Now, apparently, at around this time period, I don't know about now, but in this time period, in this part of Mexico, there were a lot of stories about gold, like in these mountains, like in these caves and stuff that were in these mountains, like right around this village. So I guess a lot of the townsfolk believed this. So basically, I think the brothers came in and were like, hey, you know, the gods will tell you where all this gold is, like untold riches and all this other stuff, if you basically do everything we tell you to do. And if you don't, then like the gods will punish you and it'll be really bad and stuff like that. So sadly, and probably not surprisingly, pretty much everybody in town believed it. And we're like, okay, well, what can we do for you then, sirs? Turns out that what these guys wanted was they basically wanted to be treated like fucking VIPs, man. They wanted a place to live. They wanted to be waited on hand and foot. And because you knew this was coming, they also wanted some sex slaves. So... I mean, you knew that was gonna. Yeah, that was one of the first thing. I mean, well, the first thing they said was like, well, you have to give us all your shit. Like, you have to give us all your stuff. Now, like, these people didn't have much, but they did have some stuff. You know what I mean? They did have some possessions and some money and stuff like that. He's like, okay, well, we're gonna need all of that. And then, so, you know, the townsfolk were like, okay, here you go, because they thought they were gonna get like piles of gold in return. You know what I mean? So they gave them all their shit. And then they're like, okay, well, now you're going to have to give us your, you know, daughters and wives and various other things. Now, it wasn't just, they used some of the girls and women, and we're not just talking about the women, we're talking about girls too, like little, like 14-year-old girls and shit like that. Not only were they using them as sex slaves, and guys too, they didn't really seem that particular. They were just like, whoever. But they also, some of the ones, like the younger girls and stuff like that, they actually made some money by essentially selling them into sex slavery in other towns, like in neighboring towns. So they started doing human trafficking, essentially. So there was that, which, you know, not great. Now, the thing about it, so... Also, they started getting everybody into orgies, you know, as one does. And
how are they doing this?
Well, like I said, they come into this town. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly what their end game was, other than because, like I said, they were scam artists.
Yeah. And how many of them were there?
Just two of them.
Just two.
Two brothers. Yeah. Santos and Cayetano. Cayetano was the other guy's name. And I'm sure they probably targeted this village in particular because it was so isolated and cut off from the rest of the world. And he's like, maybe these people are really ignorant and, you know, we can tell them anything and we'll just get all their shit. And, you know, to their credit, that did work. I mean, they must have known...
Must have been dumb as rocks.
Who to fleece.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, they lived out in the middle of nowhere and they were like really poor. A lot of them couldn't read and all this other kind of stuff. So, and you know, as you mentioned, they were very superstitious.
Right.
So they probably believe anything. You know, two strangers show up and say, hey, we're emissaries of like Incan gods. They didn't even know that like the Incan gods were like not even from there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's like, well, I mean, to be fair, the Hernández brothers didn't know that either. Because they should have come in and said Aztec. Yeah. Well, like I said, they said Aztec later on, like they got it right later on, because maybe they realized their mistake. But they were just like, whatever, these people don't know the difference, and they didn't. So so they come in, and it's sad. I know it's like, because I was thinking this too, like when I was reading the story, and I was like, it's very easy to like victim blame. You know, kind of all these poor farmers and these two dudes show up and go, hey, we're gonna give you all the gold in the world. All you have to do is give us all your shit. and let us fuck all your daughters and wives and also sell them into sex slavery. And everyone's like, okay, can do.
It sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable.
Happens
right?
all the time.
I mean, you have to think, too, that maybe they were kind of, like, desperate for money. You know, and we talked about this a little bit on a couple weeks back when we were talking about the televangelist show. It's like, how can anybody just keep sending money to these people that are just obvious scammers?
Yeah. They must have been.
But people still do.
They must have been pretty charismatic, too, these guys. It must have been, somehow they were able to convince these people that they were emissaries from Mayan gods, the Aztec gods. You know, it's looking crazy.
That is pretty crazy. Yeah. But like I said, if they believed it, I mean, they were already primed to believe that kind of stuff. Right. And maybe these guys knew that. So yeah, so they started putting together some orgies, you know, as one does. And got some drugs. They got some weed, got some peyote.
Yeah.
Made some peyote tea. Got everybody tripping balls and like having little ceremonies and stuff. Oh, we're the emissaries of the gods. Oh, yeah, they're totally coming and they're going to give you guys gold and blah,
and this
blah.
is all generations, young and old.
I guess so. I'm not clear on, because I read a bunch of stuff about this and like I listened to a bunch of different podcasts about it. No one is super clear on how many people in the village went along with this. Because to be honest, at first I thought it was all of them.
Right.
But I guess it was just like, it must have been most of them though, because there wasn't really that many people in the town.
Yeah.
So
must have been a select group that fell for it. Maybe it's a couple of different families. A couple of families did it.
And the way that shit goes down, like later on, I kind of found it. I think that maybe the implication was that everyone kind of got roped into it at some point, because if you, after a certain time period, if you didn't, like you got, you know, you got in trouble.
Okay, you got killed. Okay.
So yeah, so I kind of feel like, so I don't know how many people initially believed it, or, you know, if just some of them believed it or everybody, I don't really know. So, yeah, for a little while, the two brothers are having their, you know, drug-fueled orgies and whatnot, with all of the developing cult members. The cult never had a name or anything like that, but that's essentially what it was.
The Aztec sex cult.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, so it goes on like that for a little while. But then, it's pretty much like some of the villagers were like, you know, when the guys first came here, they promised that if we did all the shit that they said, like, you know, massage their feet and gave them their daughters and stuff like that, that we would get like a whole shit ton of gold, right?
Yeah,
I mean, where the fuck is the gold at? I mean, we're still broke.
Yeah.
So that's really not what they promised, right? So I guess they were kind of starting to grumble about it. So at this point, the Hernández brothers are kind of like, well, shit, we probably need to like up our game a little bit, like, you know, kick this into high gear, is what they're trying to do. So they figured what they were gonna do is they're gonna go to Monterey nearby. They said, we're gonna find somebody who will pretend to be a goddess or a god, either one. I don't think they were all that specific. So they go to Monterey, and apparently they found Magdalena through her brother, Eleazar, who was you know, her brother, also her pimp.
Her pimp.
So yeah,
her brother was her pimp.
Well, yeah. Magdalena, and I'm not excusing anything that she did, but from what they know of her childhood, it was pretty terrible.
bad.
It was pretty terrible. So I think the Hernándezes knew him from their common human trafficking business. And he said, hey, I have a sister who is also a sex worker. Now, Magdalena had been essentially, I guess, like put into prostitution. Like, I've heard 12, I've heard 14. But she was young. I mean, she was real young when they started pimping around. When her brother started pimping around. Now, at the time of this story, I believe she was about 18 years old. I've seen some sources say that she had married at this point, but I don't know. I don't hear anything else about the husband, and he never comes up again, so I don't know if that's true or not. There's, like I said, there's some details that are not super clear about this, because it happened a long time ago. So they say to Magdalena, they're like, okay, we want you to come to this village and pretend to be an Aztec goddess. We're all going to go in on this together. And her brother, Eleazar, he's like, yeah, I want to be on this shit too, because I want to get on the gravy train, pretty much. So what they did was they take Magdalena and they dress her up, like they get this costume that has like a fucking headdress and there's just this crazy, like, make her look all like, because they'd figured out Aztec by this point. They had abandoned the Inca thing. So they figured out the Aztec thing. So they get her like a costume and all this other kind of shit. And they stuff her in this cave, like up in these mountains near this town where they've been having the sex orgies and the drugs and everything. So then the Hernándezes go to the town and they're like, you guys, of the whole town, you guys all need to come up to the cave like right now because it's time for, a ritual. It's time for a ritual. And the townsfolk are like, oh yeah, it's that time, isn't it? So they all go up there. But unbeknownst to them, this was going to be a very special ritual. I guess the Hernándezes didn't tell them that. What they did was they hid Magdalena behind this rock or whatever, like in her getup. And then they had some, like, flash powder, because like I said, they knew some, like, stupid little magic tricks and whatnot that would impress people that didn't know anything about anything. So they do the ritual, like, and they're chanting and all this other kind of shit. And then Eleazar comes out, and the townsfolk don't know who he is. He's, Magdalena's brother. And he's basically, I'm the prophet of the goddess and blah, blah, and she's going to come here tonight, and everything is like, really? Okay. And then, bam, there's, like, this huge explosion, and, like, the cave fills up with smoke, and then she pops out, like, in her getup. And all the townsfolk are like, what? Holy shit. There she is.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Like, they totally bought it. I don't know how good this costume was. I don't know how good this flash powder was. I mean, it was dark in the cave in their defense. But, you know what I mean? So they basically said that she was the ancient goddess, and I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this wrong, because this is the one that I watched the video, and they pronounced it like 5 different ways. It's Cōātlīcue? Cōātlīcue.
Okay.
I've also heard Cōātlīcue.
Okay.
Not sure. So I don't know. It basically means skirt of snakes, or she with skirt of snakes. They have statues of this goddess. It's a real Aztec god. I mean, she's not real, obviously, but it's a real, like, mythological one. So basically, yeah. So she's got, like, this skirt. She's pretty badass looking, actually. So she's got this skirt that's made of snakes, and she's got a necklace that's made of human hearts, hands, and skulls, which, again, pretty metal. And she seems like kind of a fertility goddess, but also like a mother goddess. She was the goddess that gave birth to the moon and the stars, and also gave birth to the god of sun and war, who is Huitzilopochtli?
Huitzilopochtli.
Something like that. You could probably pronounce it better than me. I put it there with, like, the little things and everything.
I think in the story, Huitzilopochtli kills her, sacrifices
Oh,
her.
yeah, I don't know. That might be a variation.
Ties her arms and legs off, tourniquets her arms and legs off with snakes, and cuts her arms and legs off, and then buries her in the ground, if I remember correctly. And it causes something else to happen. I forgot the story, but there's a pretty famous Aztec statue. It's a round disc that they found buried. It almost kind of looks like a swastika, but it's her in the middle with all her arms and legs cut off, and they're tourniqueted with snakes. But she's kind of like in the form of a swastika, kind of. It's kind of round.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's that same goddess you're talking about. I think Huitzilopochtli, sacrifices her.
Yeah, so that's like that's his mom.
Yeah, it's his mom. Yeah.
Yeah. She's, like I said, she also had birthed the moon and the stars.
Yeah.
So she's kind of a big deal.
I think she's a good analogy to her would be in biblical context or in Middle Eastern religions, she would be Tiamat.
Yeah. There's a similarity.
Marduk kills the Tiamat, the fucking space dragon, basically, and disassembles her, and from her body creates the universe. And
that's a very, very common thread throughout a lot of world mythologies. Is the, God, but there's also one like keep people killing, like gods or whatever, like killing their parents.
Yeah,
that's a big thing, and also forming the world from like body parts from like a cut up god. That's very, very common. Yeah, like across many mythologies.
If memory serves, this goddess is the same one that's on that that got cut up. I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Sounds
I'm not
familiar.
sure.
I know Wautīla Bhakti killed that one.
Did she have a snake skirt on?
It had a bunch of snakes in the imagery.
Yeah.
She was tourniqueted up with snakes.
And then the one statue that they have of her on Wikipedia is, they're not sure if it's actually supposed to be her, like, in entirety, or if that's just, like, her snake skirt. Because the top of it, where her head would be, is two snake heads, like, facing each other. And they're like, they're not really sure if that's, like, her actual head, or if that's just, like, what she's supposed to be wearing, or if it's just, like, a fanciful representation or whatever.
Right.
But like I said, it's pretty badass looking. So that's who they said that Magdalena was, that she was this powerful Aztec goddess. Murder Hornet said how they sneak her in the village without nobody seeing her. That's what I'd like to know. See, because I'm not entirely sure how far away this cave was from the actual village. So I don't know if, like, the villagers could actually see the cave from where they were. Like, they could just, like, look out the windows of their huts or whatever and be like, hey, what the fuck's going on over there? You know what I mean? It might have just been a thing where that you couldn't see the cave entrance or whatever, and they just, like, stuck her in the cave without them seeing, and then called everybody up there, I'd imagine. But they all fell for it anyway. I mean, that's the long and short of it. And yeah, so basically what ended up happening, so Hernández brothers were just over the moon about this, because they're like, woo, these dumb ass villagers, they, like, totally believed this bullshit. However, what they didn't count on was that Magdalena was a straight up crazy. And I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I have some theories about maybe what the psychology behind this was. But very, very soon after this whole introduction of her, and her realizing that all of the villagers actually did believe that she was a goddess, she either became completely delusional and started to believe it herself, or was a complete psychopath and thought, I'm going to milk every fucking thing I can milk out of this. Maybe both things. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I'm not inside her head, so I didn't know what she was thinking. It's possible that she could have just been completely crazy.
Might have gone delusional. Power went to her head.
Well, yeah, and what I was thinking was that, and I heard a couple of other podcasters bring this up as well, and this is probably, like, a good point, is that, like I said, not excusing it, but Magdalena apparently did not have, like, a real good childhood. Obviously, she'd been pimped out as a prostitute from a very, very young age. And so it's speculated that because she probably felt like she never had any power in her life, now all of a sudden everybody is looking at her like she's an all-powerful goddess and doing whatever she says, and
sucked her right in.
Yeah, and I think that that's pretty much what happened, which is pretty horrifying when you think about it, because when you kind of, like, think about this case, the entirety of this whole situation, you know, getting into, like, the shit that we haven't got into yet, like the really horrible shit, it all took place over a 6-week period. So we're not talking about years, we're not talking about anything like that. It was just like it was like a month and a half, and she got people to do shit that you would not think that you'd be able to talk normal people into doing.
Well, look at Jonestown.
Well, yeah, and, like, you know what I mean? But that happened over a longer time period. I mean, to be honest, to be fair, and that one started out, like, with good intentions, it seemed like, and then just like the frog in boiling water. This one, it was a very, very truncated, very short time period, and pretty much from the beginning, it was pretty fucked up. So what ends up happening is that Magdalena, either believing she's actually the goddess or thinking, I'm going to run this shit now, she basically took it over. Took over the whole cult. I'm not really sure what the relationship between her and her brother and her and the Hernández brothers were. Like, how they were just kind of like, let her do it. Maybe they just thought, oh, well, maybe they got sucked into it too and they just kind of got dragged along. Or maybe they thought, hey, our grift is working, let's just, you know, keep it going. They didn't want to, like, pull the brakes on it or anything like that. And then by the time it got, like, super fucked up, it was too late to quit. I'm not really sure, like, how that ended up happening, but it was just, like, this big whirlwind of fucking shit. So she was basically like, okay, so not too long after she took over and started doing, she continued the drugs and the orgies and everything like that. She even started doing, well, she would start cutting herself, like bloodletting, and putting blood in chalices and whatnot, and then she would mix peyote in with that. Prior to that, they were drinking the peyote in tea. But she's like, no, everybody's got to drink this now. So it's like vampirism.
Yeah, that's all Aztec and Mayan stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's what they started getting into. That
Somebody
kind of thing.
mentioned in there that the Mayans are cooler than the Aztecs. The Aztecs were Mayans. They were kind of everybody in Mexico and even below down in Central America in that period and before. In general, you'd say that they were Maya or Mayans, but they were organized in city-states, kind of like everybody in Greece. Were Greeks, but they had their own city-states. Some of them were Athenians. Spartans were Spartans, but they were Greeks. It was the same thing with this. The founding father of the Aztec Empire was a Mayan. He got driven out of his city-state for sacrificing his daughter on wedding night. Had her skinned alive, and the skin worn by a priest, and it was a gift. The daughter was a gift, and the priest was wearing it in front of the father.
Didn't get you anything.
It was some kind of religious thing, and they were tripping balls. The founder of the Mayan Empire was a fucking psycho, but they did a lot of.
I don't understand it.
So the rest of the Mayans drove them out deeper into the desert until they found a place where there was some kind of prophecy, evidently, where they would know where to live when they would find a fucking eagle eating a snake on top of cactus. And they eventually found that over in the lake. What was the name of that lake? Shit. Anyway.
Shit.
Yeah. That's where they decided to put their capital. And it was floating. It was a floating capital out in the middle of the water, like an island. They made the island bigger and bigger and bigger until the fucking water disappeared.
Snazzy.
Eventually, well, I don't think it ever actually did disappear because the Spaniards attacked it from the water. They put a fucking Spanish fucking warship in it. But it was a floating city, and even had floating gardens. Pretty advanced. And then from there, they formed an empire. But their capital city floated. Had fucking causeways and shit going out to it. It was easy to defend because they could cut the drawbridges, or pull up the drawbridges, and there's no way to get to them. And they were even growing their own food out there. So from that fortress, they enslaved all the other Mayan city-states around them, and they became part of the Aztec Empire. So you could say it was a splinter group of the Mayans, but they were Mayan. In the same way, Spartans were Greeks. Even though they were killing helots, and that was one of their fucking which were other Greeks. You know what I mean? That just
like whatever. You're there, and we don't like you.
You can't think of things in terms of nation states. The nation states and citizens didn't exist. These were all tribal tribes and running city states.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Senor Sticks has just arrived. Hi, Tom and Jenny. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Zach asked if it was Lake Titicaca.
Might have been.
That's what I was thinking too, but it's like
Titicaca.
I didn't say it because I thought you'd laugh at me.
No, I know that name, but there's more than one lake. I think it might be Titicaca, but I think there was another one.
Thank you, Senor Sticks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the super chat. Danny Rowling said that village should have had a neighborhood watch group to spy on the motherfuckers from the get-go to know their intentions. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they didn't. Like I said, I don't want to, just because you're dumb, that doesn't mean you deserve to have this happen to you. But, I mean, who was it that said, I can't remember, who said this quote, but it's a pretty famous quote, something like, I'm paraphrasing, but anyone who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Does anybody know who said that?
Yeah.
It was something like that. It's a pretty famous quote. It's not exactly what it is, but it's something like that. Senor Six is asking what doctor is the one to seek for HRT. Uh-oh, it's sidetracked.
Oh, shit. Your local one? That's easy to find. Just Google a local HRT clinic. Google it near me. Just Google it. It'll show you. They'll show you the ropes. Don't stay with them long. You know, it's expensive. There's ways to get it a lot cheaper. If you got fucking crypto, you can get stuff. You can get whatever you want. But let them teach you the ropes. That's how I learned. Learn to give yourself injections and shit.
Yeah.
But you better have about 700 in hand. It's going to cost you about 200 a month. For a good one. A cheap one might be 100, but they might be giving you bullshit. They're not giving you HCG and stuff, you know. Because it's not just test, it's HCG. You want that too. You can use Clomid too, but HCG is really the way to go. Even though I don't hardly use any of that anymore. I just use test. I let everything just shut down. Fuck it. I run a little bit of Clomid. Keep everything working. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you know, just, you're nuts, you know. But they don't have to be working 100%. Just enough to fucking keep them from vanishing. You know what I mean?
You don't want them running away.
Yeah. Yeah. All depends on what you're doing at the time. Your system, you're a man. Your system's flexible. You're not going to have any children. Come on.
Zach says, maybe Tom is thinking of Tuanaku. The only reason I know about them is because I used to play the Tomb Raider games.
No.
Tom played Tomb Raider too.
I played almost all of them over the years. Except the new ones. I haven't really played the new ones.
I like the Tomb Raider games. Well, I like watching them. I don't really like playing them. It's too stressful. But you know what I mean? It's actually even stressful for me watching them. Like, especially like jumping and like falling from like great heights and stuff. I'm just like, even though I know it's not a real person. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's get back into that. Oh, James says, I haven't heard that quote before, Jenny, but that seems like a lot of LBJ's sayings. Maybe. That doesn't sound right, but I can't, that very well might be who it is. I can't really remember. I just remember like reading that quote a long time ago and being like, oh yeah, but I can't remember who said it. Yeah. Okay. So Magdalena, that, like I said, she's getting them to drink her blood mixed with peyote. You know, that's a party. And also, she's continuing the whole orgy situation, and it's starting to escalate. To a point where she seems to be getting off on watching the villagers commit incest with one another, pedophilia, bestiality.
Damn.
So there's some of that.
Yeah.
They did animal sacrifices too, because of course they did. Killed goats and drank their blood as well. But yeah, so she's basically making people have sex with their relatives, have sex with animals, have sex with children, and she's like watching all of it.
Okay. Name of the Aztec capital city was Tenochtitlan, and I was right. It's not Lake Titicaca. It's Lake Xochimilco.
Okay, well there you go.
Oh no, excuse me, Texcoco.
I would not have come up with
Lake
that.
Texcoco. That's the lake that it was built on.
All this on blood peyote, I guess. Well, blood peyote and religion.
Yeah.
Like actually believing she was a goddess. Can you imagine an 18-year-old? I don't know if she was illiterate. I'm presuming.
Probably.
An 18-year-old former sex worker who had been pimped out since she was, a teenager, and suddenly everybody will just do whatever she says. I can't imagine what that would do to you psychologically.
And I imagine she's fucking had a lot of fucking kind of bitterness, so she's just making everybody fuck everybody.
I was thinking that too.
You need to screw your mom, and you need to screw your daughter, and then because all kinds of weird shit like that.
And like I said, not excusing it, but she probably had a lot of really horrible shit done to her, so she's probably like, I don't even know these fucking people, and they'll do anything I say. So yeah.
And you're gonna screw the dog. That kind of weird shit.
Yeah, so she was probably like doing. She had some anger issues, probably. I'd imagine. So she's kind of, so she's like getting off on like watching all these people doing this. James Knapp said, Jenny, I looked it up. It was Voltaire. Oh, okay. That makes sense. It was Voltaire. Okay. So yeah. So she does all that. Now, after, a little while of this, like a week or two, I'm presuming. Apparently, two of the guys, the villagers, were kind of like, man, I don't really like this. I don't really like having to have sex with goats and my sons and everything like that. It's fucked up, right? That's like, or am I alone here? It's fucked up.
Yeah, you don't need to do
And
that.
the other guy's like,
that's uncalled for.
just it's like, yeah, it's a little fucked up too. I don't really like this. Like, how are we gonna like extricate ourselves from this situation, right? So these two guys are just kind of talking.
What was the enforcement method?
Well, you're about to find out.
Okay.
So these two guys start kind of grumbling about it, and I guess word starts getting around that these two guys are dissenters, heretics, as the case may be. And Magdalena finds out about it. So at the next little ritual they're having in their little sacred cave there, she basically points right at him and said, "Those two are dissenters. Kill them."
Damn.
And everyone in the village, and this is like their family members and their friends. Everybody knows everybody. It's like 50, 70 people, something like that. And they did it.
Damn. Did they just beat him to death?
Yeah.
Damn.
They just fucking jumped on him and fucking beat him to death.
Damn.
Without hesitation. They did not hesitate. She just said, they're dissenters. They're saying bad shit about me. It's like, they need to be punished. Like, fucking kill them right now. And everybody did. They just all jumped on.
Could have been something kind of like, they all had skin in the game. They're all committing all these weird atrocities on each other and all this weird shit. So it has to be true. And if anybody stands up and says, "Hey, man, this is just not right," all of a sudden you're making them feel guilty, so they fucking turn on you and attack them. So, no, it's true. It's true.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So they became part of the crime.
Yeah.
That was like when Saddam Hussein took over his country. He would just pick out random people and he goes, "They're all traitors." And then the people who weren't picked out as traitors would go, "It's not me," because he was calling them out name after name, and then they start clapping. Everybody who was basically freed or no longer under threat started clapping. "Yeah, good job, we're not traitors." They goes, "Yeah, you guys are so loyal. Tomorrow you will act as the firing squad on these guilty ones."
Yeah.
And they went, yeah. From then on out, he controlled the country because those they had killed dudes.
Yeah.
They couldn't back off of it.
Right.
Saddam knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like maybe, I don't know, man, in this situation.
So it might have been something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they'd been committing all these sexual atrocities and shit. And with the two people that called them out, so you got to get rid of them, or you'll be guilty. So
or everybody will find out about it.
Yeah, they'll find out.
It's like we'll all get in trouble.
And then as soon as they killed those dudes, they were fucking in it balls deep. There's no way backing out now.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of no return, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beating your fellow villagers to death
Yeah.
and possibly family members.
Yep.
Zach said, "So she's fluffing her muff to all the greatest hits. Classy." Yeah. I mean,
See what?
this is because she was getting into like watch all these people do this fucking shit.
Oh, that's the classics, the greatest hits. Yeah.
The greatest hits.
Yeah.
Bestiality,
Pedophilia, yeah.
incest,
All the shit you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, it's all the taboo shit.
Yeah.
Which
everything else had been burnt out in her. She'd done everything else, so.
Yeah, I guess
So
so.
nothing else
So
was
she's
shocking
like,
her.
yeah, it was like some Marquis
She had a
de
higher
Sade shit.
threshold.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it was.
Yeah. And now it's murder.
Yeah.
So
they beat the two guys to death. Now, in some of the sources, she had, in anticipation of this moment, had kind of like buried some sort of pikes in the dirt, like in the cave, hung them up from the pikes, drained their blood out into chalices, mixed it with chicken blood and more peyote. I don't know where they were getting all this peyote from.
It grows there.
Well, I know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But these kids all
It's good.
They had a bunch of weed. They had a bunch of weed and peyote.
It's good.
Did you ever like engage in any blood rituals while you were on peyote?
Just you mash it up and drink it.
Yeah, they like I said previous to that they were drinking it
You
in
get
tea
sick. Yeah,
until she got the idea.
Yeah, you eventually get sick, and throw a lot of it up. Some dudes will put it back in and eat it again.
Okay, no, that's a little much.
Yeah. It's like LSD, kind of. Not quite as strong.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, can't you just get more peyote? You don't need to like read. You're not a dog. Don't be
You
like
might be
reading
able to
the shit
smoke
you
it.
barfed up.
You might be able to smoke it.
That's gross.
We just ate it.
Gross.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she mixes it with chicken blood and peyote, and then makes everybody drink it. Basically like, yeah, we got rid of those dissenters. You guys are all okay. Now, so basically after this, like I said, I don't know if she actually believed that a lot of the sources that I read said that she actually came to believe that she was this goddess and that she needed human blood to, like, live forever. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if, like, the brother started believing that too, because it was a crazy situation. Obviously, a lot of drugs were involved, a lot of heightened emotions, let's call it that. So everything was just chaotic, I'm sure. So maybe they're starting to believe all kind of crazy shit. And there was kind of like a group synergy going on too, because I guess everyone was kind of like into this and believing.
Well,
all
you
this
know,
stuff.
some dudes were getting the pussy that they've been trying to get all their lives and shit too. You know what I mean? Like, man, I finally got a crack at her during this ritual. So some people were probably enjoying this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, having these orgies and shit.
Yeah, they're like, all right, I'll go along. Free
So,
drugs and free sex. All right, I'm in.
Yeah, and free love and shit.
Right. And then until
Breaking them down.
she says, "Hey, go fuck that goat." Well,
Yeah. If you don't fuck that goat, then you're not gonna be able to fuck that chick.
okay, I'll fuck the goat.
Yeah. Okay. Put her over there where I can see her.
So I have to like think about the goat. Sorry, goat. This is I
Jenny's making up all this goat things. Was goats even mentioned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they started sacrificing goats before.
And then they were having sex with the goats.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was bestiality involved.
So it's mostly goats.
As far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Might have been other animals too. I'm not really sure what other animals.
Goats
they had
and
around.
village dogs, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Horses and shit.
Whatever
Fucking
ones
bulls
were
and
around.
cows, if they had those.
Whatever ones were around.
Yeah, whatever they had. Chickens.
That might be a little difficult.
I once saw a fucking clip somebody put up on where the fuck was that? Fuck, it was somewhere. I think it was somewhere in India. Somebody's fucking filming the fucking monkeys running around in India. The monkey ran and fucking grabbed a chicken and started fucking the chicken. The chicken got away.
That chicken.
Chicken got away though.
Chicken's like, what the fuck are you
Yes,
doing?
what the fuck is that?
You're not my species.
Monkey tried to fuck the chicken.
Bro.
It's funny.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Monkey got a little excited.
Yeah.
Chicken rape.
It was a young monkey. It wasn't a full grown monkey. It looked like a little one. The fucking chicken fucking takes off.
Maybe that was like the monkey equivalent of Gonzo, because you know Gonzo the Muppet, like he's super into chickens.
No.
Even though he's what is Gonzo? He's a bird, right, of some kind? Is he a vulture?
I don't know.
I
Never
guess
thought about
he's
it.
still kind
He's
of a
just
bird.
a blue thing.
He's a blue thing. I think he's supposed to be kind of a bird.
What's Oscar the Grouch? What is it?
A monster.
Yeah.
I mean, Sesame Street, they, you know, in their defense, like, a lot of their puppets were just monsters.
What was
They're just, like-
Grover?
he was also a monster.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, a lot of them are just monsters.
Let me go get it.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Big Bird was a bird, and Snuffleupagus was an elephant. But most of, like, Oscar and Telly? What was it? That was the name, right? Telly and Grover and all that. I think they were just monsters. Like, just generic monsters. You know. Talk about a night of clocking. Alien something. Yeah, I thought, wasn't there like a joke about Gonzo being like from another planet or something? I always thought he was supposed to be some kind of bird, because I thought like his nose was kind of like a beak, so I thought he was supposed to be like kind of a vulture or something. I don't know. Zach says, for my generation, he's the monkey equivalent of Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie. I kind of remember that show, but it was a little after my time, I think. And Zach said then the dude realizes he likes the goat more. Yeah, he's just like, oh yeah, okay, never mind that girl. So, you know. But I just can't imagine like what the situation around this whole village. And you know, who was doing all the farming while all of this was going on? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, because presumably they still had to make some money, because they're like, well, you know, that gold from the goddess still hasn't like materialized, so we still got to grow the corn and beans and stuff. So who's gonna do that while they're all like fucking goats and drinking peyote and whatnot? Somebody's got to be working. I don't know. I think about these things, but you know what I mean. So I don't know, like I said, I don't know if she actually became convinced that she actually needed blood and that she needed human sacrifice, because she was all in on this Aztec goddess thing now. And so it's basically like, well, we need to start sacrificing humans, you know, to get supernatural powers and to like keep us together forever, to like keep us, to let us live forever, to make us immortal, right? So, basically, yeah, because that's what the Aztec myth says, right? That blood is the only decent food for the gods. And so she started to believe she was a god, I guess. So she's like, okay, well, you guys got to cough it up now. So essentially what she started doing after that, like after the two guys that had been dissenters had been beaten to death and, you know, lynched essentially, she started saying, okay, well, we're gonna, you know, again, kick this into high gear, and we're gonna go full-on human sacrifice now. I know we do animal sacrifices prior to this, but, you know, human sacrifices, that's where it's at. We're gonna need to keep doing that. Now, sources differ. Some said that she would, anybody that was dissenting, she'd be like, yeah, kill that motherfucker. Or some said she just picked people at random. I'm kind of leaning more toward maybe picking people at random, because that would seem like scarier, more like more arbitrary, like more like something a god would do. And honestly, like after she started doing that, I would think that like most people that would dissent would probably keep their fucking mouths shut, like to keep from getting sacrificed. So I'm thinking she probably just picked people at random. So this went on for several more weeks. They know for sure that 4 people at least were sacrificed during this time period. And basically what they would do, she would have the cult members, I don't know if she actually like got in on it herself or if she just like got off on getting everyone else to do it. I kind of feel like it was the latter thing. But she would get everybody to like beat them to near death. Then she'd put them up on the pike, and then she would cut their hearts out, because, you know, Aztec.
Yeah.
So she'd cut their hearts out while they were still alive. And then she would drain all their blood and mix it with the stuff and then make everyone drink it.
She did that herself.
Evidently.
Yeah, okay.
Evidently. But yeah, so it did get into Temple of Doom territory, in case you were wondering. She did start cutting out people's hearts. So great.
She must have believed this.
I'm thinking that she just lost her fucking mind.
Yeah.
That she went completely delusional.
Yeah.
And like I said, just the power just went completely to her head. She had never experienced anything like this. Everyone listening to her, everyone doing exactly what she said, no matter how horrible.
She must have convinced herself that she was an Aztec goddess.
She did seem to believe it. I mean, from everything that I've read.
But it was destiny. Her destiny was finally fulfilled.
Right. It's like,
her
oh,
rightful
well,
place.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, I'm destined for better than her life was before.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Jesus Christ. But yeah. So, so this went on for several weeks in early 1963. And as I said, they were cutting out people's hearts right there near the end. Now, how this whole shit show got exposed and ended up. One night in May of 1963, there was a 14-year-old kid. He didn't live in Yerba Buena, I don't think, but he just lived in the area, you know. And his name was Sebastian Guerrero. And he was just out doing teenage boy shit, just like kind of wandering around and, you know, just fucking around. And he happened to wander close by the cave where all of the ritual sacrificing was going on. And he got curious because, you know, normally no one was in these caves and they were usually empty. And he just kind of saw lights flickering and he thought like he heard weird noises, like animalistic kind of noises or like chanting or something. He's like, what the fuck is that? I need to go like check that out. Because this is like a horror movie. It's like if it was me, I'd be like, nope, not getting involved. But this kid, like I said, this kid in a way is kind of like a hero. But yeah. So he gets curious. So he decides he's going to go over there and see what he can see. So he kind of goes over to where the cave is, but he sees people in there. It's kind of dark and he can't really tell what they're doing. And he's like, well, I don't really want them to be able to see me. So he like kind of ducks behind a rock and he's like peeking around a rock, like watching him in there. Now, apparently the first thing he sees first like a bunch of people who all look like they're, you know, having an orgy. So they all look like they're humping on the floor or whatever.
This just hit me.
What?
This is where Bruce Dickinson got the lyrics, or fucking Bruce Dickinson and guys from Iron Maiden got the lyrics for fucking Number of the Beast. It's exactly out of the fucking song.
Is it? I don't remember the words to that.
He sees a damn satanic ritual with chanting and all kinds of human sacrifice. And what is it? What am I seeing? Was it some crazy dream? It sounds like.
Yeah, maybe this is where.
Yeah.
It was like
right out of Number of the Beast.
Because, like I said, he just noticed this flickering light coming from the cave, and he didn't know what it was.
It sounds just like the lyrics of the Number of the Beast.
Well, now you know.
They just made it more Anglo. They did. They made it more Anglo.
Well,
more about Christianity and seeing Satan and shit. But it's basically the same thing.
Zach said, I just read that there's a Belgian rock band named after this crazy bitch. Yeah, there is. There is. But like I said, she hasn't really seeped into the cultural consciousness the same way that some other serial killers and like other true crime cases have, even though this is fucking crazy. But like you said, that might very well be where they got the idea for those lyrics, though.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that on the Wikipedia page, but you might want to add that. But yeah, so he's peeking around. Like I said, first thing he sees, like, a bunch of people humping on the floor, right? Like, having an orgy, and he's just like, oh, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, he's not really entirely sure what he's looking at. And then he sees, evidently, you know, a person, like, up on the pike. And I'm guessing that he actually saw somebody, like, getting their heart cut out, or, you know, and getting bled, and, like, everybody drinking the blood. And as soon as, I mean, obviously he's in shock, like, watching, because he's like, what the fuck am I looking at? And then, like, when he's 14, you know what I mean? And then once he figured it out, he's like, holy shit, I know what I'm looking at. And then he, like, takes off running. Like, he's like, holy shit, I gotta tell somebody about this. Now, the story goes that he ran flat out for 15 miles.
Yeah.
Because that's where the nearest police station was.
Yeah.
There wasn't a police station, like, near there. So he just ran and ran because he was freaked out. As you would be. Yeah. Like, you just, like, see a cave. It's like, oh, I wonder what's going on in there. Holy shit! You know what I mean? Yeah. That's not what you're expecting to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's right out of the song, man. He turned and ran.
Yeah.
And it turned and ran. And what did I see? You know what I mean? Was it just some crazy dream? Yeah. It's right out of the song, man.
That must be who he's talking about. They're talking about Sebastian Guerrero.
After the show, you can listen to that song. You go, yeah, that's what they're talking about.
It might be, yeah.
But he's going 666. The number of the beast. Sacrifice is going on tonight. You know, it's kind of a generic song, really, by today's standards. But it's exactly this fucking same situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kid would have been tripped the fuck out. Like, what the fuck are they doing?
Well, yeah, because like I said, he's like a small town kid. He's 14. He's just wandering around. He's never seen anything like that in his entire. Well, most people haven't seen anything like that in their entire life. Pretty like 99% of people on Earth would be fucking freaked out.
That would be mind bending to a teenager.
Right.
You'd be like, what the fuck? It'd probably even be harder on an adult.
Yeah.
You'd be like, no, it can't be.
Yeah.
They got to be making a movie. I'm gonna go down there and talk to him. You know, some weird shit like that. You know what I mean?
That's what Tom would do.
It can't be real. I'm gonna wrap this shit up.
Hey, where's Tom Savini?
Yeah.
You go in there saying,
yeah.
And then they cut your heart out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, this kid runs 15 miles to the nearest town, or the nearest town that had a police station, which was called Villa Gran, I guess.
Yeah, big villa.
Big village.
Big village.
That's a real creative name. That's a real creative name.
Big village, little village.
Big village.
Mediocre village.
Medium-sized village.
Medium-sized village.
Slightly larger than the other one village. Yeah, that's what they're all called. It's just in a row, you know. So he finally gets to the police station after running 15 miles. Freaked out, exhausted. He goes in there. And he's kind of hysterical, which, like I said, I guess you would be. And he's telling the cops, and pretty much he can't really explain, like, what it is that he saw. And I guess he said something that had to do with vampires, which, in his defense, that's what they were doing. They were drinking blood. Technically, that's vampires, okay? But I guess because he said it like that, or, like, he just seemed, like, hysterical. So a lot of the cops were just like, whatever, kid. You know what I mean? They just thought that he was making it up, or that he was on something or something. Like, they just didn't believe it. And the shit that he was saying was just so crazy. They're like, there's no way that could be true. So they didn't really do anything immediately. So he was kind of there all night, I guess. But one of the officers there, whose name was Luis Martinez, he basically kind of felt bad for the kid. And he's like, well, you know, hang around and I'll, you know, take you home in the morning. Whatever. Like, I'm presuming in his car. Now, while Luis was taking the kid home the next day, and I'm guessing that Sebastian at this point had kind of, like, calmed down enough to kind of tell him a little bit more about it. And he's like, I can show you where it happened. Like, I can show you where the cave was. So Luis goes, okay, well, we're going to go check it out. Because I guess he did kind of, like, believe him. Or he's like, well, the kid is obviously, like, really scared. So something really bad must have happened. So probably we should check it out. Even all the other cops were just like,
you better take a gun. I tell him, you better take a gun. Fucking, that's what I would have been telling that cop.
Well, yeah.
Get that fucking shotgun ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would have said, too.
Yeah.
So he basically took him to presumably where the cave was to show them where the thing was. Sadly, neither one of them was heard from again.
What?
Yeah.
Damn. They
I
got
mean,
jumped.
They weren't seen alive again, that's for
Okay.
sure. They did find him later on, but
All right. So it didn't have a happy ending.
it did not.
Okay.
It did not. Now, not too long after, I don't know if it was just like later that same day or the next day, the other cops were like, hey, you guys see Martinez? Like, he went out there with that kid, and they were maybe going to check out that cave, and he didn't come back, and the kid didn't come back either, so probably not good. So I guess the cops finally got off their asses and like did a little bit of investigation. And it turned out that some of the towns around Yerba Buena, I guess there had been some kind of like little rumblings or rumors or something of like satanic cults in the area. So the cops were like, oh shit, probably we should have taken the shit seriously, right? Especially now that their colleague has not returned and they can't raise him on the radio or anything like that. So they kind of started to freak out a little bit. So on May 31st of 1963, the cops are like, okay, well, we need to go check this shit out. They even went, they got the army, like the military, to come in as well. And so they all go in to do like a big operation in Yerba Buena. Now they roll into town. The first place they go is the farmhouse where Magdalena and her brother, Eleazar, had been living. Now, they found both of them stoned out of their gourds, just kind of laying in the bed. So they were like, oh, that was easy. So they just picked the two of them up. Yeah, they were completely high. Now, Santos, one of the Hernández brothers, he either tried to, like, sources differ, he either tried to attack the police, like, jumped at him, or tried to run away, at which point the cops shot him dead. So he got shot and killed. Cayetano Hernández, they were looking around for him, because they were like, okay, well, we got these two chuckle fucks, and then it's like, you know, we just shot this one, where's the other brother? Turned out, the other brother, Cayetano, had been killed previously by a member of the cult named Jesus Rubio. Now, I was listening to like a podcast earlier, and they said, you know, you would think that Jesus was kind of like a hero, and he killed Cayetano because, like, you motherfucker, you made us do all this horrible shit, and he killed him. But apparently that wasn't what it was. Jesus actually wanted in on the action. He actually wanted to be like let into the high class of priests or whatever, so he could be protected and he wouldn't be sacrificed. Right. So he was basically trying to save his own ass.
So he recreated this cult.
Yeah. So they went to Cayetano. He went to Cayetano and said, "Hey, can I get on this priest action? I know you guys are faking. I'm not going to tell anybody if you let me in on it." Cayetano said, "No, absolutely not." And so Jesus actually killed him.
Damn.
So that's how that went. So that's special. Yeah, these are all like really lovely people, aren't they? So yeah. And weirdly, most of the rest of the cult members, which, like I said, was a significant portion, if not all of the villagers, pretty much holed themselves up in the caves and engaged in a shootout with police, during which many of them were killed. I don't think any of the other cops were killed, other than the first cop that went out there. But several of the cult members were killed in the shootout, as was one of the Hernández brothers who was killed earlier. So basically, they searched around in the farm, or near the farmhouse where they had found Magdalena and her brother, like fucking stoned out of their minds. They found the dismembered bodies of Sebastian Guerrero, the 14-year-old kid who had reported them to the police very bravely, and look how that ended up, and Luis Martinez, the cop. So I guess they yeah. And Luis Martinez also had his heart torn out. Okay.
That was the kid?
No, that was the cop.
The cop, all right.
That was the cop. So they found those two bodies near the farm where Magdalena and her brother were arrested.
Somebody said, who gave them guns? I think Mexicans could have guns in the 60s.
I mean, everybody seemed to have them. Yeah. Like, all the villagers had them. They were farmers, so I guess, and all the cops had them too.
I think a real hardcore gun control supposedly happened later on in Mexico. 70s, maybe 80s. But it doesn't matter. You can get Mexico swimming in guns. So is Brazil. Banning them doesn't mean shit. This is America. They can fucking make a Mac-10 out of nothing.
Well, and like I said, I'm
Yeah.
presuming this village, like, it seemed like a lot of the villagers had shotguns and things
Yeah.
like that, because, like I said, they're farmers.
Yeah.
A lot of farmers have shotguns. So yeah. So, like I said, big firefight. So they did find those 2 bodies. They also searched all around the cave, like where most of the rituals had taken place, and they found another 6 bodies, which had all been dismembered. Some of them also had their hearts removed. So yeah, and they might have been more than that. They're not entirely sure. Those were just the ones that they found. Now, this is crazy, but Magdalena and Eleazar, the brother and sister, they went to trial, and they only got 50 years, which...
That's mind-blowing. She only got 50 years?
50 years. Now, now we should note, they were only convicted of the 2 murders, the 14-year-old kid and the cop.
All right.
Because all the other murders, none of the cult members would testify against them. Okay. None of them. Which is crazy. Even after all that shit, they still wouldn't turn on her. They still wouldn't turn on her and say, yeah, she did all that shit. They
were accomplices.
Well, that too. Yeah. Well, and the thing about it was that after, like, the story came out and everything like that, because, they had the kids' testimony, they had, like, other shit going on, and I think maybe some people did, like, dissent and, like, say what was going on up there, but the cult members, the villagers that weren't killed in the shootout, several of them were also convicted. Each of them, I believe, got 30 years each. For their part in it, because they participated. Like I said, I don't think, other than the heart cutting out, which I think that maybe Magdalena did, all of the deaths, like the beatings and everything like that, I'm pretty sure she just told everybody else to do that, and they did it for her.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that doesn't mean she didn't, like, kill people. She did. But I'm just saying that, I don't know if she got her hands dirty to any great extent. So yeah. So nobody would testify, but they all the leftover ones got 30 years anyway. And basically that's where it kind of ended up. I don't know whatever ended up happening to some of the cult members, like, served their time and then they got out, and a couple of them, like, talked about it. There are some Spanish language articles about it floating around out there. I don't know what happened to Eleazar. Whether he served his sentence and got out. I'm not entirely sure how old he was. He wasn't much older than Magdalena. Magdalena, who was only, I believe, only 18 at the time that she was arrested, she would have got a 50-year sentence. I heard that she died in prison, but nobody is entirely sure when or what exactly happened to her. So it's entirely possible that she could have served her time and gotten out, like, as an old woman, and nobody remembered anything about it. But most sources I saw said that she probably died in prison, but I don't think there's any record of that because no one's entirely sure. Even, like, the Wikipedia page and everything like that, they think she was born around 1947, but the death date, they have no idea, like, when she died. They just know when she was arrested, and then they just kind of, like, lost track of her. So... yeah, what's the moral of the story? Moral of the story says, if anybody shows up in your town and says, we're going to give you all the money if you do anything we say, don't do that thing. Whatever it is they want, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. And especially if they say that some supernatural shit's going to happen, especially don't do it then.
Right.
And I think I talked about this, like, on the Televangelist show and stuff like that, too. Anybody says they know what some god is talking about, or, like, they know they have some direct pipeline to, like, some supernatural entity, fuck that shit. Don't ever listen to anybody that says anything like that. They're only just trying to get you to do shit that you don't want to do. They're trying to get all your money.
You gotta tell people that.
I know, but I'm just saying, well, evidently you do, because it's like some people still do it.
Yeah.
Anytime anybody says that, it's always a grift. Always. I mean, because there's no way of proving otherwise, you know?
How long have we been on?
Hour and 23 minutes.
Why don't you go ahead and hit commercials, and then we'll come back after the commercials.
Okay. I mean, the story's mostly done, but
We'll do an after party.
Okay. We'll do an after party.
Yeah. Be back in a second.
So we're going to do a little set of commercials, and then we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Yep.
And now was acknowledged the presence of the Red Death. He had come like a thief in the night, and one by one dropped the revelers in the blood-bedewed holes of their
We're back again. Just did one commercial straight.
That was a weird case.
I told you it was.
It was a weird case.
And like I said, I kind of wonder.
They ought to make a movie about that.
See, I was thinking
Lucio
that too.
Fulci should have made a damn fucking
Yeah, he's
movie.
dead now, but it's like, yeah, he would have made a good movie. Well,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have made any sense. But the thing about it was that this story doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is that this woman, Magdalena, had this not happened, had she not been recruited into being Cōātlīcue, and going into this town to like try to grift these people out of their money, would she have become this bloodthirsty fucking essentially serial killer?
No.
Probably not.
No, she'd been a hooker.
But yeah, she probably just would have been a
Yeah.
hooker and died young.
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming.
Well, she died young because she was in prison.
If she did, then I don't know.
Yeah, no, a hooker could live a long time. She probably wouldn't have died young. Probably just lived a normal life. Normal for hooker, But that's probably what she'd have been.
Normal hooker life.
Yeah, just hooker life, yeah.
But it's interesting though the way circumstances conspired in pretty much the worst way they could have conspired. And she had to have had something. I figure she had to have something wrong with her psychologically, obviously, to have even, because I think you could put other people in that situation and it wouldn't go down that way. You know what I mean?
She was young and she was role playing. She had a bad background, and all of a sudden she got a bunch of power and went to her head,
And she didn't know how to
became
deal
a
with
goddess.
it.
Yeah, she'd rather be a goddess. Yeah,
And she just got off on.
Yeah, y'all
It's like, man, I'll make
do
people do
that
the most
shit.
fucked up shit
you
imaginable.
made me do shit. You needed. Now it's time for y'all to
I
do
kind of
shit.
feel like it might have been as simple as that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
thinking that, like, I was listening to a podcast about it on the way home today,
Yeah.
and I thought that very thing. I said she probably got treated really badly,
Yeah.
in her, being a sex worker, and she's probably like, well, I'm gonna get one back on the fucking world,
Yeah, that's
for
all.
treating me like this. You know what I mean?
And then she's probably started to buy into it. I was destined for this. I am the new goddess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Just-
Look at all this power I have.
Yeah, they'll do whatever I
Yeah.
say. Like, I
Next-
can tell them to do, like, I can tell them to, like,
Yeah.
rape a goat or, like,
Yeah.
have sex with their daughter, and they'll
And
do it without even questioning.
Yeah, that's right. And this is going to spread throughout the world, and I'm going to run the whole world. That's probably exactly what she's thinking. She's
Yeah,
dumb.
She
She's
got,
young.
like, mad with power.
Yeah. She's young and dumb. She's what, 18?
Yeah,
18,
I think
probably
she was
illiterate.
18.
You're probably talking like 75, 80 IQ, fucking, yeah. She probably believes her own bullshit at this point. I am the reincarnation of this goddess.
That's crazy.
Basically, the goddess they're talking about is kind of like Tiamat or Kali. Like you said,
Yeah.
Temple of Doom, Kali. The Kali also had a damn necklace of skulls and I think hands.
Wasn't it? Didn't she have, like, a...
I think it was
Yeah,
skulls
now
and
that you think
hands.
about it, Kali has... I think she had, like, a little skirt or, like, a little thing, like a little
Skirt of
belt.
arms and skirt
It
of
was
arm-
arms,
I
right?
think it was
Arms and hands.
I think so, yeah.
And then I think she had, like, a little
Skirt
necklace
of
that was, like,
heads and skulls.
or something.
And then she had, 4 arms? Carried
Four,
with
I've seen
with
6
daggers.
sometimes.
I think it was 4 with daggers and hearts.
Dagger and, like, and
A human heart.
human heart, and then one also had kind of like a flower, like a lotus or
Yeah,
something.
something.
And I can't remember what was on the other hand. I looked it up a lot because I was gonna do it for Halloween one year until I found out that the logistics of it were too complicated.
To become Kali?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been cool though. Well, I could figure out all the other stuff, but I was like, how am I gonna do like 4 arms without it looking stupid?
It's going to look stupid. What you do is you put on a back brace. You know how those little back things that clip on where you put the wings? Mm-hmm. Instead of wings coming out, you have another set of arms.
Yeah,
underneath
I
you.
would need like mannequin arms.
And
or
they'd
something.
be mannequins. They wouldn't move.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Well, it'd be better than having like fucking floppy ass.
Yeah, it couldn't flap.
Because that would look really.
You have
stupid.
one arm holding a dagger, another arm with a heart in it or something.
Yeah.
And they're in different
And then I
positions.
was mad because, like, I thought about doing that for so many years. So that, man,
Yeah.
when I can afford it, I'm totally going to do that because I never saw anybody
Yeah.
do that costume. But then, like, a few years after that, I started thinking about that. I saw that fucking model, Heidi Klum, and she did it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, that bitch.
And she had all the money to fucking
That's
hire.
what I mean. It's like,
Hire somebody to make it.
my broke ass. I couldn't, like, afford to do it. But I was like, hers looked badass. Like, she painted herself all blue and everything. It was super cool. Are we doing Goth Easter?
Goth Easter, what's that?
We might get some Easter candy.
Yeah.
We don't. Easter's not like a really big. I mean, even when I was growing up, it's like you get like an Easter basket and stuff, but it's like, and I'd go to my aunt's house and we'd have like an egg hunt.
Goth Easter. is when you take these little black eggs, but they're actually like musical Benoit balls, and you put them up inside, and then you tell everybody to look for them. You got to figure out who's got them.
Yeah, it's the dirty egg
That's
hunt.
the dirty. Yeah, that's what the goth version.
Oh my god, that would just gave me an idea for. You remember when we used to go to that monthly fetish party like at Escape? Why didn't they ever do that for Easter?
Yeah, they got these little goth buddies.
Like the egg,
little goth buddies.
like an egg hunt.
You
Like
gotta figure which
yeah, to
one's got
stick
the
your
eggs
hands up
in
there.
it. Fucking tacky. It's just tacky, man.
Well, that was kind of their whole. That was their whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at that one party, you like had to stick your face in a kitty litter box, like with your stuff.
Yeah.
With Tootsie Rolls in it.
All right, so you want to go ahead and call it quits on the show, Jim?
I reckon. I thought
shut
you
it
said
down.
we were gonna have an after party, but
This
I guess
was the after party.
but I guess it was like 9 o'clock. So.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock.
And he he woke me up last night.
Yeah.
Cause he was out at he went out to bike night, so I just stayed home. I did my laundry and I had some pizza. He left some pizza for me, and then
I got some more pizza.
Oh really?
Yeah, 2 slices.
Okay.
You want one?
Yeah, I'll have one in a minute.
Yeah.
And then I sat down and watched a really weird Irish horror movie on Shudder, which is called Isolation, which I might do a review of because I kind of dug it. But it was a weird premise, but I kind of dug it. So I kind of watched that, and then I fell asleep, and then I watched Cold Case Files, and then I fell asleep like about 10:30. And I kind of heard him coming home, but I was like half asleep. And then at like 1 or 1:30 in the morning?
Yeah, about that.
I suddenly heard this woman's voice in the room, like really loud, like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What the fuck?" And like I sat up
Yeah.
and I looked around and there was nobody in the room, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I figured, oh, that must have been Tom. And like I went down the hall and he was like in his man cave going, "I came in the room with this and I didn't have my headphones weren't on or the Bluetooth wasn't on.
Bluetooth wasn't connected.
Wasn't connected.
It went to a
it's like-
commercial.
so it went to a commercial and it was like
that's going
super
in.
loud.
Yeah.
And then I guess before I even sat
Yeah.
up, like he had run out the room. So I was
Yeah.
like, I was confused for a second because
Trying
I
to get-
sat up and I was like, who was that?
Trying to get the damn Bluetooth headphones to connect. Had to turn it down.
And then I was like, yeah, so it was
Ghost
like
got her.
So it
Ghost
was
got her.
1:30 and I was like, God
Yeah.
damn it. I was like, now I gotta go back to sleep because I have to get up at like 5 in the morning. So you know what I mean. Let's see. Zach says, whoa, shortest show ever. Not really. I don't think it's the shortest show. We've done
we've done hour shows before.
I mean, we've done movie reviews and stuff like
Yeah.
that that are shorter. Though, like I said, this wasn't a super, super complicated case, which is probably good.
We're gonna be back on Friday.
Because, and
Yeah.
Friday night we can do a much longer show because I don't have to go to bed early. You know what I mean? Unless you want to go out Friday.
Oh, we're gonna go out Friday.
Oh, we are?
It's payday.
I know. But,
But we can do a little show before we go.
yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that show. I had a good time with it. It was a pretty fucked up story. Now we're going to go listen to that song and see if that is what they're talking about. You're pretty sure that's what they're talking about?
You can put it on. It's all about the same situation. You'll see.
Okay.
This thing's got speakers, doesn't it?
Let's
We'll listen to it on TV.
Yeah, you played it over there.
Okay.
Camp Guy said there was a female Mexican wrestler who killed lots of old lady widows. Huh. Like I said, we should probably do some more Mexican cases because there have been like some really weird ones.
We got a
from
lot of
down-
Mexican fans.
That's true.
Yeah, it's
So
just
we should probably cover
it's close
a
to
lot.
us, man. It's like it's
So
just
we should
down
probably
south a
cover
little
some
bit.
more of that.
Down south.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is just a little bit south.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you everybody for dropping by and hanging out with us this evening, talking about this fucked up shit. And we will be back on Friday night for our sidetrack show, probably about 7:30 again, like usual. Please remember to like, share, all of that other stuff. Comment, that helps too, with the algorithm and everything like that. So we'll see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.